everybody record the lessons, inshallah, without permission, inshallah. Asking the brothers if they don't record without their permission. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن خير الكلام كلام الله وأحسن هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. As we continue in the chapter pertaining and clarifying the aqidah of Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, rahmatul wasi'ah. As we know, his name was not Abu Hanifa, that was his kunya, but his original name is An-Nu'man ibn Thabit ibn Zuta al-Kufi rahimahullah. You'll find, I forgot to mention the time now. The time now is 6:42 p.m. Wednesday, October 26, 2022, which agrees on the Hijri calendar, where inshallah this will be the night of the 30th of Rabi' al-Awwal. If I'm not mistaken, I think the new month has started for the sighting of the moon, just to be sure. But as far as I know, it's the 30th of Rabi' al-Awwal. If anyone knows whether or not the moon is decided for the new month, then let me know. But anyway, we know technically this is the evening of Thursday, Yom al-Khamis, or Masjid al-Khamis, or Laylat al-Khamis, the night of Thursday, according to the Hijri calendar, the year 1444, after the migration of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. We were discussing the aqidah of Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, where Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah clarified what was Abu Hanifa's aqidah, what was his belief. As we were emphasizing the affair that the mean or the reason of why he became great wasn't because of the affairs of fiqh. As you'll find a lot of those who blindly follow the madhab al-Hanafi, they blindly follow it, they're fanatic of it in regards to fiqh issues. The fiqh issues are the branches of the religion. That's the branches. You find that they do not follow him and what made him the great imam in the first place, which made him a great imam in the first place, which is his aqidah. You need to blind follow him in those affairs. If anything, because the affairs of aqidah is what made him great. And if he was a person that was upon great deviation and great perversions in regards to his belief, then he would not have been a great imam in the first place at all. He wouldn't have been great at all if he would have been someone who deviated in the aqidah of Islam. So those are the matters you'll find that Shaykh al-Islam brought in this book of Hamawiyyah. What was his position in regards to the affairs that connected with the names and attributes of Allah? Especially the matter of how, or the topic of what this whole book revolves around. As this book revolves around the affirmation of al-Asma al-Khabariyah, the names of Allah's attributes that were conveyed through revelation. That's the topic of this book, and that's what Shaykh al-Islam was conveying, and he was bringing what was the position of Abu Hanifa in regards to this particular matter, which is the affirmation of Allah's names and attributes, the absolute pure revelation. So you'll find that all of the names and attributes of Allah are pure revelation, but some of the names and attributes of Allah are exceptional, meaning we will have no way of knowing unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informed us. For example, as we mentioned this previously, the previous lessons, such as the laughter of Allah. No one would know Allah laughs unless Allah conveyed it through revelation. No one would know. As your mind cannot affirm that Rabbul Alameen laughs. He has a characteristic of dhahk, of laughter. These type of matters, brothers and sisters, those type of characteristics of Allah, no one would know unless Allah conveyed it to her. Through revelation, conveyed it through His messenger. What was Abu Hanifa's position? That's what Shaykh al-Islam was bringing. So not only was Shaykh al-Islam giving us benefit of what was the aqidah of Abu Hanifa, in addition to what he will elaborate on momentarily, which is pertaining to what? His position in regards to the names and attributes of Allah. But in addition to that, he's given us what was his belief in regards to other issues of aqidah, such as the divine decree and the destiny of Allah. The divine decree and destiny of Allah, which is also part of the belief of the Muslim, which is fundamentally from our religion that they have to be sound. And those who deviated in these affairs, either it led them out the fold of Islam, or it led them to be upon a path of deviation, even though they ascribe to the religion of Islam, or they have a general Islam, but they have some type of what? Deviant ideologies or perversion or perverted beliefs in their aqidah, which is also extremely dangerous. So those type of affairs, Shaykh al-Islam brought all these benefits. Number one, what was Abu Hanifa's position in regards to the names and attributes of Allah that was conveyed through revelation? Number two, what was his belief in regards to other sacred affairs of aqidah, such as the divine decree of Allah Ta'ala. So that's what we're going to speak about now. So notice if we go back to Shaykh al-Islam says. Shaykh al-Islam brings the aqidah of Abu Hanifa in his book entitled Al-Fiqh al-Akbar. That's what we've been speaking about for the past couple of weeks. In addition to that, in addition to the affair pertaining to this book called Al-Fiqh al-Akbar, the greatest fiqh, in addition to that, there was a narrator who narrated this book. His name was Abu Muti' al-Hakam ibn Abdullah al-Balkhi. That was one of the narrations or the narrators of the book Al-Fiqh al-Akbar by Abu Hanifa. So Abu Muti' al-Hakam ibn Abdullah al-Balkhi asked Abu Hanifa about affairs of creed, such as the qadr, such as the belief of Allah as far as His divine decree and destiny. What is your position in regards to that, Abu Hanifa? So this is what Abu Hanifa says. He said that when he was talking to Abu Muti', he said to him the affairs of what a person has to do to become a great scholar. Then he said, وَذَكَرَ مَسَائِلَ الْإِيمَانِ وَذَكَرَ مَسَائِلَ الْقَدْرِ. Then he mentioned the affairs of the qadr. Then he said, Abu Muti' said, I heard from Abu Hanifa say, وَالرَّدْ عَنْ الْقَدَرِيَّةِ بِكَلَامٍ حَسَنٍ لَيْسَ هَذَا مَوْضِعُ. Then Abu Hanifa, al-Nu'man ibn Thabit, rahimahullah, he refuted the Qadariyah. He refuted the people who deviated in the divine decree of Allah, as far as their beliefs in regards to it. And he gave very profound statements, very important, profound statements in regards to it. This is not its place for us to give it in detail, meaning he summarized it. However, we'll go and elaborate on these matters now, just a little bit more. So Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah ذكر أبو حنيفة الرد على القدرية. Shaykh al-Islam mentioned that Abu Hanifa refuted those who deviated in the divine decree of Allah and those beliefs. How did he refute the Qadariyah? First, number one, who are the Qadariyah? Al-Qadariyah, as we know, as those who negated the divine decree or destiny of Allah. The affair of Qadariyah, or the people who deviated in these affairs, the group is called Qadariyah. When a person mentions the word Qadariyah, or the group Qadariyah, or those who deviated in the affairs of the destiny of Allah, from that is those who negated totally. Those who negated it totally. أحيانا مبالغين في إثبات القدر. So you have those who negated the qadr of Allah. We know that the qadr of Allah quickly are 4 levels. The qadr of Allah, number one, is Allah's knowledge of affairs, of everything that happens in this existence, of good and evil. That Allah Ta'ala had total knowledge of it and absolute full awareness of it 50,000 years before He created the heavens and the earth. That's number one. Number two, that Allah Ta'ala not only have knowledge of all these affairs that will take place in this existence, in addition to that, Allah had it written down in a book called the Preserved Tablet. Allah had it written, and the affair was what? Written. Of what would take place in this existence of good and evil. Number 3 is that Allah Ta'ala also willed it to happen, of good and evil. Allah allows good to happen, and He allows evil to happen for a reason. Number 4 is that Allah created the action. As Allah created us and what we do. Those are the 4 levels of the qadr, in which you'll find that the deviant sects who negated the qadr fell into. Either they negated some of those categories, one of those 4, or either 2 of them. The first of those that deviated in the affairs of the qadr were the most extremist of them, where they negated Allah's knowledge of affairs. That Allah had no knowledge of affairs happening until they actually had taken place. So they negated the first 2 levels of the qadr, which is the knowledge of Allah before it happened, and that Allah Ta'ala had it written down. They negated that. Those are called, everyone, nufat al-qadr. They are called those who negate the qadr of Allah Ta'ala. Meaning those from the extremists from the Qadariyah, the extremists from the Qadariyah, the extremists from the Qadariyah are those who negated Allah Ta'ala's knowledge, and that Allah Ta'ala did not have the affairs written down before they actually had taken place. He did not have it written. They were not in a preserved tablet. They were not written in a book at all. Those from the Qadariyah were considered kuffar, from the extremists from amongst them. And that's who the affairs of what you'll find, that when they first emerged, at the heads of them, from Ma'bad al-Juhani and Ghilan al-Dimishqi, when they emerged, they were considered the extremists from amongst them. The extremists from amongst them were deemed to be outside the fold of Islam. That's why you'll find that Abdullah bin Umar, that said, if you tell them and if he reaches them, I'm free from them, they're free from me, and that Allah will not accept from them anything. Meaning that the early deviant sect of the Qadariyah were the extremists from amongst them, in which you'll find that they inherited the statement from an individual who's not even Muslim. In which we talk about, if we have some more time in history, we will talk about it. That they actually had what? They had inherited the statement, or this evil, satanic statement, from an individual whose name was Susun, which was a non-Muslim. But you'll find that the majority of the deviant sects in Islam, they all adopted these ideologies from non-Muslims, and that they were foreign. They were foreign and they were adopted from non-Muslims, in which the Muslims had adopted by either debating with them and they became affected, or they were amazed by what they have in so-called belief, with them looking down upon their religion and thinking that they bring something foreign in order to rectify and complete Islam. As a result of it, they fell into these great atrocities. So they either, number 1, they were amazed at what the kuffar were astonished because of their weakness in Islam, and as a result of it, like we said, they adopted it in religion, thinking that Islam can't be complete unless we have something foreign, or we gain some knowledge from something foreign that has nothing to do with the religion. That's number 1. Or number 2, they debated with them. And in their debate, they were not what? Firm. And their belief, as a result of it, they adopted an evil belief and they became affected. And then as a result of it, they started spreading it amongst the Muslims, in which, like we said, other Muslims became affected by this great disease. And these are the greatest of sicknesses, that you be affected in your belief and you meet Allah Ta'ala upon that, which is the most the extreme dangers that one needs to what? Realize. That one, dying in this type of state, is the most extremely dangerous of affairs. That you meet Allah with some deviation in your belief is something, like we said, of the utmost what? The utmost evil that one can meet their Lord upon. That's the reason why you'll find that Shaykh al-Islam was elaborating on these matters. So that's the first deviant sect of the Qadariyah. Number 1, those who deviated and that Allah Ta'ala's knowledge was negated. That Allah didn't have no knowledge of it until it happened. And the second, that Allah Ta'ala did not have it written down. Then you had the later part of the Qadariyah, The later part of the Qadariyah, they deviated in the other two levels, which is, they believe that Allah Ta'ala, He has no will over the creation as regards to good and evil. In regards to good and evil, Allah Ta'ala has no will. Rather, the affairs all in the hands of the servants or the slaves of the human beings. That they're the ones that create their own actions. And they're the ones that's in control of their own destiny. That they have no will. That Allah doesn't have no will, but rather, you're the one that makes your own destiny. You're the one that makes your own choice. Until they went extreme in this affair, until they negated Allah's will over their actions. That Allah has no control. You're the one that creates your own actions. You're the one that's in control of your own destiny. The other level, they also negated that Allah created the people's actions. So that was the later part of the Qadariyah. So the Qadariyah broke down into two categories. You had the early ones who was the extremists, and you had the later ones who were what? They negated the other level or the other two levels, but they weren't like the first. They negated that Allah Ta'ala what? His domination as far as His will of the creation, He has none. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. And the second one is that Allah Ta'ala did not create it. He did not create the actions of the servants. Rather, the servants create their own actions. And they're the ones that's in control of their own destiny. So that is in regards to the first deviant sects of the Qadariyah. So you had the extremists, then you had the later ones, then you have the opposite effect. You have the opposite side of the spectrum, which is, then you have the opposite side. You have the opposite side of the Qadariyah. Who's the opposite side of the Qadariyah? The opposite side of the Qadariyah in actuality are people that did deviate in the aspects of the Qadar, where they affirm for Allah Ta'ala His will, but they went to the extremes in Allah's affirmation of His will. They went to the extremes of it. A person will ask, how can you go to the extremes of it? You can. They put the affair in Allah Ta'ala in His subhanahu power to the point where they remove that the slaves have their own choice. Meaning that if you do the act, in actuality, it's Allah the one that did the act. You were forced to do it. Those people are called the Jabriyah. So they negated Allah Ta'ala. They negated from the creation their own choice. So those people went on the opposite side of the extreme. So they say that Allah Ta'ala has full control over everything until the point where they negate from the human beings and having their own choice, which is absolute nonsense also. But we have a say that in regards to Ahlul Sunnah, that they believe that our aqidah, as we know, when it comes to the book of Allah Ta'ala, وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. You do not will unless Allah Ta'ala wills. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is the one that has His will over the creation. But at the same time, Allah affirmed for the creation them having their will too. Meaning, you have your own choice. You choose to do an act, Allah will aid you in it. You choose to do evil, Allah will lead you astray and increase you in that also. But you have the choice. And the reason why, and the proof that Allah Ta'ala gives the human being choices, because you will be rewarded for your good choices or your bad choices. The bad choices, you'll be in the hellfire. The good choices, you'll be rewarded for what? Paradise. Which clearly shows you have what? The choice. So you do not will, but however, you do not will unless Allah Ta'ala wills. So Allah Ta'ala, as we know, the aqidah of Ahlul Sunnah is that the human being has their will, but their will falls behind the will of the Creator. If you choose good, and you choose to do something of righteousness, and you choose to do something that is pleasing to Allah, Allah will aid you in that. And He will bless you in it, and He will give you tawfiq in it, inshallah, if you're sincere and you truly want good for yourself. Of course, your aim is to please Allah, and you want that actual affair that is considered good. Allah will aid you in it. If you now choose evil, you want to be mischievous or mischievous, you want to be what? Plotting, scheming, dishonest, lying. Allah Ta'ala knows your intent. He will increase you in that also. If your person chooses Iman, Allah will increase you. Your person chooses Kufr, Allah will increase you in that. So however, those affairs, as we said, follow behind what? The affair of what everyone? The the creation. The creator, excuse me. Behind the I'll say it again. The will of the creation follows behind the will of what? Allah Ta'ala. So those are the affairs that we said was considered from those who are the extremists, from the Qadariyah, as we said. So, you'll find that Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah talks about all these affairs. You'll find that you'll have what they call Qadariyah al-Mushrikiyah. Then you'll find what they call Qadariyah al-Majusiyah. And you'll find what they call Qadariyah al-Iblisiyah. Those who deviate in the Qadariyah from the polytheists. Then you have those who deviate the Qadr from the Majus, from the fire worshippers. Then you have the Qadariyah of the devil, of the Shaytan himself. I'll elaborate on this quickly, I don't want to go too deep into this. The Qadariyah al-Mushrikiyah are those who use the Qadr of Allah to justify their evil. For example, if Allah will, we would not have committed polytheism. None of us, nor of our forefathers. So they believed in the Qadr, but they tried to use it as an argument to just their evil. If Allah had willed, I would not have killed so-and-so. If Allah had willed, then I would not what? I would not have did such and such. If Allah had willed, I would have believed in the haqq. If Allah had willed, I would not have worshipped and been upon paganism or polytheism. You'll find this ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about from the evil ways of the polytheists of the past is that they tried to use this qadr to justify their polytheism or to justify their evil and their polytheism that they were upon. And Allah brought that in His book to teach the people that see the people of the past how to use arguments in order to deviate in the affairs pertaining to the divine decree of Allah Ta'ala. And these are the type of arguments that they use to justify their evil. Notice in the ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this book about those people that use the qadr as an argument to justify. They said, if Allah had willed, we would not have committed polytheism. Not us, nor our forefathers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this book at the end of the ayah, وَكَذَلِكَ كَذَّبَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ حَتَّى ذَاقُوا بَأْسَنَا فَهَلْ عِنْدَكُمْ من علم فتخرجوه لنا إن تتبعون إلا الظن وإن أنتم إلا تخرصون قل فلله الحجة البالغة ولو شاء لهداكم أجمعين. These are the affairs of the Quran that one has to contemplate on. Allah brings all types of affairs of evil in His book and clarifies how the people who came that belied the correct belief, what type of arguments they used to use. Allah brings it in the Quran. So notice it says, they said, those who disbelieve from the polytheists, they say, if Allah will, then what? We will not commit polytheism. Those are affairs that's connected with the qadr. Which level of the qadr? The qadr of Allah, which is called the will of Allah. As we mentioned, it said that there are 4 levels. Number 1, as we said, the knowledge of Allah. Number 2 is that Allah written it down. And number 3 was what? The will of Allah of allowing it to happen. Allah does not. There's nothing of good and evil in this existence happens except Allah wills it. Nothing happens in this existence unless Allah wills it to happen. So notice they use the will of Allah to say, if Allah will, we will what? We will not disbelieve. Here they're trying to say that basically Allah Ta'ala has total power. Where we don't have what? Our own choice. We had no choice over the issue. Right? So these are the affairs you'll find that they say in order to justify so-called their evil. Those affairs, Allah Ta'ala refutes them by saying this in the last part of the ayah. Just as they used the same excuses from the previous nations from before until they tasted our punishment. Meaning, you made a decision. You made your choice. And then you tried to blame Allah's divine decree as an excuse. Now you got to reap the repercussions and the consequences of it, where Allah Ta'ala will make you taste His punishment. Where it says in the ayah, كَذَلِكَ كَذَّبَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ حَتَّى ذَاقُوا بَأْسَنَا. Then Allah Ta'ala says in this book, do you have any knowledge that you can bring forth? Meaning, that affair that you committed to say that Allah Ta'ala, if He had willed, He would not have what? Allowed us to commit shirk. Meaning, did you have any previous knowledge to know that the affair was already written? that you had a fear of the unseen, to try to say that you know that matter was written for you so you can do it. No, you don't. You have no knowledge of any of those matters. You have no knowledge of what was in the knowledge of Allah, nor what was written. Those affairs you did not know. So those matters Allah refutes it. Do you have any knowledge of that matter that you can bring it forth? You do not bring, or nor do you follow except mere conjecture. And you do not do anything except fabricate and lie. So Allah refuted those who use the qadr to justify their evil. A person might say, that's only for the polytheists. No, that's also for the Muslims. You'll find that I've heard this years ago, even in this city, where you'll find that someone said, if Allah had willed, I would not rape that woman. If Allah had willed, I wouldn't have killed so-and-so. If Allah had willed, I wouldn't have robbed so-and-so. If Allah had willed, I wouldn't have stole something out of someone's house. So apply the same ayah, what happened with the polytheists, to what? To the same action that you're trying to justify your evil. You cannot use the qadr of Allah as a justification for what? Of evil that you commit. Those affairs are extremely dangerous, and those affairs in which Shaykh al-Islam called that type of argument, and that type of what? That type of ittikal, or what they call i'timad, or that of one relying on the qadr of Allah to just their evil, he called it qadariyya mushrikiyya. He said it was the qadariyya of the deviation of those from the polytheists, where they used the same argument in order to justify their evil. That's why it was called what, everyone? Qadariyya what? Mushrikiyya. Then you have qadariyya majusiyya. Majusiyya, from those who believe that in the qadr of Allah, that we know from the qadr is Allah create the actions of the slaves, which is, He created us and what we do. The fire worshippers used to believe that the light creates good and that darkness creates evil, which is also incorrect. Number 3 of the qadariyya is called qadariyya iblisiyya, the qadariyya of the devil. Shaitan or Iblis, as we know, Iblis, the devil himself, believes in the qadr of Allah. Shaitan believes, number 1, in the existence of Allah. Of course he does. Number 2, he believes in the rububiyyah of Allah. Number 3, he believes in the uluhiyyah of Allah. Number 4, he believes in the names and the attributes of Allah. These are all ayat in the book of Allah. All of them are there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this book, person might ask, what's your proof? How does Iblis believe in the rububiyyah of Allah? He says in his book, قَالَ رَبِّ أَنظِرْنِي إِلَى يَوْمِ يُبْعَثُونَ. Oh my Lord, give me respite until the day they were resurrected. When he said, my Lord, that's rububiyyah. Meaning, oh my Lord, I know and I firmly believe that you are able to destroy me instantly. That's why I'm asking you permission for me to lead the children of Adam astray. I'm asking your permission. Meaning that I have fully believed. If you wanted to destroy me instantly, I am fully aware of it. And that you are my Lord. That's why I'm asking you permission to lead them astray. That's the rububiyyah of Allah. The uluhiyyah of Allah, the devil. When he said in his book, when he was about to enter that, when he enters the hellfire on the day of resurrection, when he said to the slaves, when they were entering him, and on the day of resurrection, those who worship the devil, when they're about to be thrown into hell, as the devil on the day of resurrection is going to set himself free from them. So these idiots that are Satanists, on the day of resurrection, he's going to set himself free from you. What did you think that the devil was going to do? Would you think it was going to be honest? Like, yeah, we're rolling out together, we're going into hell. I'm with you. No. So you thought that the devil was going to be honest? So it says as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to Ibrahim, as it says, listen to this ayah. It says, وَقَالَ الشَّيْطَانِ لَمَّا قُضِيَ الْأَمْرِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَعْدَكُمْ وَعْدَ الْحَقِّ وَوَعَدْتُكُمْ فَأَخْلَفْتُكُمْ وَمَا كَانَ لِي عَلَيْكُمْ بِسُلْطَانٍ إلا دعوتكم فاستجبتم لي فلا تلوموني لوموا أنفسكم ما أنا بمصرخكم وما أنتم بمصرخي إني كفرت كفرت بما أشركتموني من قبل إن الظالمين لهم عذاب أليم. This is Surah Ibrahim. That the shaitan will say when the affair is concluded, when everybody's entered into hellfire, and everybody's taking their final abode, and the hereafter with it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. Verily, Allah promised you the promise of truth. I promised you, and I take my promise back. وَوَعَدْتُكُمْ فَأَخْلَفْتُكُمْ. I promised you, and I betrayed my promise. I had no power over you, except that I called you, you answered me. مَا كَانَ لِي عَلَيْكُمْ بِسُلْطَانٍ إِذَا دَعَوْتُكُمْ فَاسْتَجَبْتُمْ لِي. Don't blame me, blame yourself. I can't save you, you can't save me. Now listen to this part. Verily I disbelieve of what you set up along with Allah and partners in His worship. Meaning your polytheistic filth that you were worshiping, I don't believe in that. I believe that Allah is the only one that deserves to be worshipped. That's Tawheed Uluhiyyah. So the shaitan believes in the Uluhiyyah of Allah. The devil, he knows the truth. That Allah is the only one that deserves to be worshipped. And you idiots were worshiping statues and idols and believing in all this nonsense. I don't believe in that. A person might say, what about the names and attributes of Allah? The shaitan says, also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, the shaitan says, فَبِعِزَّتِكَ لَأُغْوِيَنَّهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. By your might. That's the names and attributes of Allah. Notice the shaitan said, now let's look to the arrogance at the same time, but look to how his submission, but he's arrogant at the same time. By your might and power, I'm going to lead them all astray. Is it clear? By your might and power. What category of Tawheed is that? The names and attributes of Allah. The third, Tawheed al-Asma wa Sifat. Look at the arrogance of the shaitan. He has full awareness that Allah can destroy you instantly. And he has full belief that what he's upon, or what he believes of all these three categories. But look at the arrogance. That brings us to the third category of the Qadr, which is what, everyone? The Qadariyah of what? The Qadariyah of Iblis. How did Iblis deviate the Qadr? Number 4. The devil himself believes in the divine decree of Allah. However, he deviated in it. What was the deviation of Iblis? The deviation of Iblis is that when he committed the act of disobeying Allah, of not making sujood to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he didn't make sujood to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what happened as a result? He blamed it on Allah. It's Allah, it's your fault. What did he mean by that? As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-A'raf, He says, as it says in the ayah, let me go back a little bit. It says the second page of Surah Al-A'raf. Now, it says, let's go back. ثم لآتينهم من بين أيديهم ومن خلفهم وعن أيمانهم وعن شمائلهم وبين أيديهم شمائلهم ولا تجد أكثرهم شاكرين. Let's go back a little bit more in the ayah. We go up. It's the second page of Surah Al-A'raf. Now, Allah Ta'ala says in the book that the shaitan says, he says, by you leading me astray. Because of you. He says, I will misguide all of them. Hand me the Surah Al-Mushaf, everyone. Hand me the Surah Al-A'raf. It's right on the second page. Yeah, here it is. That's it. قال فبما أغويتني لأقعدن لهم صراطك المستقيم. He said, because of you misleading me, I will most definitely lead all of them astray. Meaning, your divine decree of what you've written for me and what you will, it's your fault. You knew that I was going to do this. You set me up. It's your fault. So Allah Ta'ala, so Iblis was using the qadr for what? that because of you willingness and you written for me, it's your fault. I had no problem. This is not my choice. This is you doing. So the shaitan, what is he doing here? He's using the qadr of Allah in order to what? So-called blame the affair on Allah Ta'ala. Like it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that what? Willed it. And Allah Ta'ala is the one that what? Had full power over it. So in order to say basically, the action was forced on me. I had no choice in the matter. You written it on me. You written for it to happen to me. It's your fault. And I had no choice in the matter. That type of affair is a deviation in the qadr, where he used it in order to blame his Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala for his deviation and for his disobedience, where he had no choice. So he used the qadr of Allah ta'ala in order to what? Remove the blame from himself. Is it clear, everyone? Fine. So based upon that, I'll read what the great Imam Muhammad al-Jami just mentioned. I'll read it quickly. So everything I just said will be mentioned here in the context, so in the explanation. It said, وَيُرَادُ بِهَا أَحْيَانًا نُفَاتَ الْقَدْرِ. What is intended by with Abu Hanifa refuted those who deviate the qadr. Number one is those who at the extremes of negating the qadr. We talked about that. When we say that those who negate the qadr of Allah, those who negated Allah's previous knowledge of it, and that it was written down. That's number one. And from the devious sect who negated Allah's general will over the creation. And that affair be carried out by Allah creating it, of course. Then you'll find that their claim is that Allah had no knowledge of any events until it actually happened. And that the affair was renewed from new, meaning that the servants are the ones that create their own actions. Not Allah himself. And that Allah Ta'ala, of course, He is the one that gave the choice to the servants, and that their affair is all in their hands, not behind or falling behind the will of Allah Ta'ala at all. As we know, all these matters are considered what? All these affairs are perverted ideologies and extremely evil. That these matters may be what? Be believed in this type of evil manner is the one, like we said, falls into these type of great deviation and atrocities in their religion. And like we said, during the time of the past, these people, you'll find that they used to use different affairs or these type of affairs to justify their evil. You'll find that those who deviate in the qadr, they used to do the most evil of acts. Some of them used to drink. And some of them used to commit great crimes and great heinous crimes against society and humanity. And they'll justify the qadr by saying, Allah Ta'ala is the one that willed it. He's the one that actually did it. Either from the ones who say that the actions were forced, they would do that. Rather, you'll find there's a poetry where it says, لَقَدْ أَصْبَحْتُ مُنْفَعِلًا لِمَخْتَارُهُ رَبِّي فَفِعْلِي كُلُّهُ طَاعَةٌ. There's a poet where it says in the poetry that those who say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has full control over everything, we have no choice, that's the other deviation. He said, that verily I came upon the morning, doing what I want to do. For everything that I do, whether it be good or evil, he says all of it is the actions of Allah. Whether I drink, smoke, steal, commit crimes, drink, fornicate, you name it. I didn't do it, Allah did it. It's the one that's Allah's actions. Those are the affairs of the qadr, where you'll find in the past that they what? Because of their deviant ideology, what it led to of what? Great evil, filthy acts as a result of its belief. Is it clear, everyone? Fine, let me read it quickly. What Shaykh Muhammad al-Jami, then we'll stop, inshallah, what he says. He said, for those who deviated in the affairs of the qadr, he said, number one are the extremists. From one side of the spectrum, or one side of the qadr is those who negate Allah's knowledge of it. Meaning Allah has no knowledge of the affair. Or that Allah did not have it written down. Or that Allah does not have no will over it. Or that Allah does not create it. And that they believe that the affair was renewed from what? From the beginning when the servant actually performed the act. Meaning, the servant is the one that creates his own actions, not Allah. But, so the slave, he's in full control. بل كل عبد يخلق أفعال نفسه الاختيارية. Rather, every servant is the one who creates his own what? His own choice, or his own act that was done by his own choice. For verily, if the word Qadariyya is used, in most cases, it is intended by these type of people. Those who say that Allah has no knowledge of it, or they say that Allah has no what? Control over what takes place of good and evil in this existence. So when you hear the word Qadariyya, which in most cases, that's what's intended. A person might say, from the Muslims, is there any benefit in studying this? Where there's an actual group called the Qadariyya, which they say, وَلَا وُجُودَ لَهُمُ الْآنَ بِصِفَةٍ عَامَّةٍ. He said, well, for example, that these sects that we're studying now, where they deviate or have these type of atrocities, is there truly any benefit in that? Where they're actually called a deviant sect called the Qadariyya? We say, as far as their name called Qadariyya, no. As far as their ideologies and those who adopted, yes, they still exist today. From them, you'll find that certain people say statements, and I've heard this with my own ears, from certain, even from Barack Obama years ago. He said, nothing is written for you. You control your own destiny. He said, you are in control of your own destiny. Life is what you make it. That's true to a certain extent. But that's not fully what's the affair. The affair is the Muslims believe that you do have the choice. You do have your own will, but your will follows behind the will of what? Of Allah Ta'ala. You are the one that carries out the good in your life. But ultimately, the deciding factor goes back to Allah for you to have it or not. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith of Bukhari Muslim, he says, احرص على ما ينفعك واستعن بالله ولا تعجز. He said, have that great desire to carry out and have the goal to what? Attain what will benefit you. Worldly and religiously. Work hard. But at the same time, if you do not attain what you set out for, then know that Allah did not want it for you for a reason. So ultimately, even though you had your own choice, if Allah did not want you to have it, Allah prevented it and held it back for a reason. So how many people have studied in college? They've been and had they excelled to the highest extent. I've heard this story before. I've heard this from someone I know personally. They've studied in college for 4 years and then they were at the head of their class. Their 4th year, they was about to graduate, they died. Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر الله أكبر. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمد الوسيلة الفضيلة وبعث مقام محمود الذي وعدته. طيب, like I was saying, you have your own choice in life. Nobody's saying have aspirations, be motivated. The Prophet ﷺ said that. He said, احرص على ما ينفعك. Have the great desire to attain and set out and aspire towards what will benefit you, whether it be in your worldly affairs or your religious affairs. If you want to be a scholar or a strong student of knowledge, set out, buy books, read, sit with people who you know are knowledgeable that can pass off the knowledge to the end of it. You are the one that are able to carry out those matters in regards to the reasons to achieve that success. But at the same time, your heart is supposed to be tied in with Allah Ta'ala. That Allah is the one that finally has the ultimate say so whether or not that you are to have it or not have it. Because ultimately you will attain affairs that will benefit you, of course, that will be a means for your success, not only just worldly, but that worldly affair will also lead you to what? Ultimately attain the greatest success, which is in the hereafter. Because that certain affair that you're setting out to achieve might be something that could destroy you. That's the reason why your affairs are totally what? Trusted with Allah. That's why the will of the creation follows behind what? The will of the Creator. So the message of Allah gathered between both affairs in the hadith. He says, set out with that great desire to attain what will benefit you. Seek help with Allah, but don't give up. However, if the affair goes left, listen to the last part of the hadith. If you are afflicted with something, meaning you might have studied, you might have been a businessman, you might have went miles, you might have went to set out in that business venture, but the nata'ij or the results were weak. You didn't get right what you wanted. Listen to that in the hadith. If it afflicts you, or you did not attain that certain affair, وَلَوْ أَصَابَكَ فَلَا تَقُلْ لَوْ أَنِّي فَعَلْتُ كَذَا وَكَذَا لَكَانَ كَذَا وَكَذَا لَكِنْ قُلْ قَدَّرَ اللَّهُ مَا شَاءَ فَعَلَ. If the affair goes left in a manner that you didn't expect, that you did everything you could, but something happened, don't say, if I would have did it this way, the outcome would have been this way. However, say, قَدَّرَ اللَّهُ مَا شَاءَ فَعَلَ. Allah will, and Allah does what He wants. When you say that statement, that's affirmation of what, everyone? The qadr of Allah. Meaning that your actions follow behind what? The will of Allah Ta'ala. Meaning I did the action, but Allah did not want it for me to have it, maybe for a reason. Maybe if I would have set out for that business venture and my tire didn't break down in the middle of the road, and if I would have went to those furthest extent, maybe I might have died. Maybe if I wanted to marry that sister and Allah Ta'ala did not allow me to have marry the sister due to some other reason why it didn't happen, maybe the sister might have afflicted me with magic. I've heard these stories before, brothers and sisters. I've heard these stories before. I heard brothers who constantly trying to marry the sister, I'm trying to marry the sister that I want, marry, and Allah kept making it hard for them for a reason. Then He kept forcing the issue. Then we have these narcissistic type people. Man, I don't care what it is. I'm going to get what I want. And nobody's going to stand in my way. Okay. So then you marry the sister. Then you found out she's practicing magic. And she did magic on you. You don't know what Allah is trying to protect you from. Or you married the brother. I don't understand why I can't marry that brother. I don't understand. I want him. He's good for me. You marry him, he gives you AIDS. You don't know why Allah will make the affair hard for you. You have your will. But Allah ultimately follows, your will follows behind who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will. You do not will unless what? Allah wills. You have the choice. But ultimately, the deciding factor returns back to who? Allah Ta'ala. Is it clear, everyone? Fine. So those are the affairs pertaining to the qadr. It was intended by the characteristic or the negation of the qadr of Allah. As we said, the matter of what was negated, or those who negated it, are they in existence today? We say, as far as the name Qadariyah, no. However, the Aqidah entered upon the Mu'tazila. The Mu'tazila exist to this day, not by the actual name. Who adopted the Aqidah of the Mu'tazila from them is the Rawafid, the Shia. All of the Rawafid and the Shia have the Aqidah of the Mu'tazila. They have the Aqidah of the Mu'tazila, all of them. The Rawafid. So, kullu Mu'tazili is Qadari. Every person who has the Aqidah of the Mu'tazila is Qadari. Is it clear, everyone? We'll stop here, inshallah. So you'll find from some certain Muslims who have not studied these affairs and how we're studying it now, you'll find that they say, you're wasting your time with that nonsense. Because I've heard this nonsense before, this type of nonsense, this rhetoric. Well, you Ahlul Sunnah waste your time studying affairs of Qadr and all those deviant sects of the past. Huh? First of all, you find that the non-Muslims say these. And brothers and sisters, these affairs are slowly creeping back in. They are, trust me. These negations of the Qadr of Allah, the negation of the existence of Allah, witchcraft and magic are starting to become widespread. I even looked on my phone the other day, and I noticed they have an advertisement for what they call it, psychic. They're starting to now have psychics on your phone to say, you know, my husband is cheating on me, so I went to this psychic and they told me everything that happened. And it was so decorated, like it was like a commercial, and it's on the phone. It popped up as a commercial, and I'm like, is this talking about tarot cards and psychic readers and psychic tellers to tell you whether or not your husband is cheating on you, or your wife is cheating on you, or that your relationship was going to go left, or your relationship was going to become better later? And I'm like, look, it's just so decorated. I couldn't believe it. All it takes is a what? Press of a button. Press of a button, you pay for it, then somebody is actually going to be a psychic teller. This is all affairs that's pertaining to magic and affairs that's considered from the unseen, and which is becoming widespread and normalized in society now. They're starting to, brothers and sisters, don't think that these affairs are not creeping. These affairs are becoming widespread and normalized in here in America, especially magic and witchcraft, especially around this time during the year, especially during this time of the year. It's all being normalized in society. It is all being accepted in a manner where the people, like they're doing it in the name of fun, games, and laughter, and having fun. That's how they make you accept it. Fun, games, and laughter, and having fun. And little jokes here and there. And making the evil people look victimized. They're the ones being oppressed. So these matters, as we said, brothers and sisters, again, the affairs of the Qadr also are prevalent. From those affairs, like we said, if a person says to you, listen, your destiny is not written for you. Yes, it is. It is written for me. Listen, life is what you make it, totally. You have full control over your life. Is that true? Absolutely not. I have control to a certain extent, yes. That I'm supposed to carry out my affairs or my matters religiously and worldly in the best way. I'm supposed to be motivated. I'm supposed to go out and be able to accomplish certain things and try to attain success, whether it be pertaining to my worldly life, my religious life at the head of them, my religious life and sustenance for my worldly affairs. But at the same time, how many matters have one set out to do, and when they went out their house in order to what? Something happened. They might have slipped. They might have fell, they might have woke up, they couldn't get out the bed, their tire might have went flat, something happened. Was they expecting it? Usually a person does not, they don't expect it. It happens. That's life. Which is to let you know that all the affairs does not all ultimately return back to what's in your control. It's in your control to a certain extent. Is it clear, everyone? In regards to the rawaf of the same thing. Any questions about the lesson? We gotta stop. Follow.
Qadariya Mashruqiyya and Qadariya Deviation, they're the same, right?
Yeah. Not technically. The Qadariya and Majusiyya, they believe light creates the actions. No, the Qadariya and Mashruqiyya is they believe that if Allah had willed, we would not have committed evil. We would not have committed polytheism.
And that's not similar to ABC?
It's similar. Similar. I thought you said Majusiyya. Yeah. You said Iblisiyya?
Iblisiyya, Mashruqiyya.
Yeah, they consider them the same. Yeah. I thought you said Majusiyya. Majusiyya was a deviation as far as in khalq.
Crazy.
No, I thought I said. Oh, okay. Majusiyya is in khalq, creation. They create light. Light creates good, and dark creates evil. Yeah. But Mushrikiyya is almost the same as Iblisiyya. They're negating, they're blaming the qadr of Allah for their evil. Mm-hmm. You're right. We'll talk about a little bit more on this one tomorrow, inshallah. Don't worry.
Did you say that when Shaykh when he refused to prostrate, he said he refused to prostrate to Allah, or he refused to prostrate to Adam?
I'm sorry, did I say it?
He said, I'm not really sure. I think you said, maybe mistake. I had to go back.
I meant to say prostrate to Adam. If I said prostrate to Allah, I meant to say prostrate to Adam by the command of Allah. No. Prostrate to Adam. No. But we know the sujood here was sujood al-tahiyyah. It was sujood of greeting and honoring, not of worship. Anything else? طيب مستعجل وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى اله وصحبه سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك